Hey, welcome back to the Girl Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, your clarity cultivator and founder of Be Free Project. I help women who are ready to flourish, feel fulfilled, and be free to show up for themselves. I am extremely passionate about community, sisterhood, and personal growth. So if that's your jam, you are in the right place. And now let's get into the show. I am super duper excited because I'm doing another Chasing Free series. And today I am interviewing Yvette Henry. She has been married for 9+ years and they have 4 kids. Much of her life is shared on their family's YouTube channel, Beleaf and Fatherhood. If you're not following, you totally should. She co-hosts a podcast with her husband called How Married Are You? And she just launched her own podcast called Yvette Unplugged. She is currently a stay-at-home mom who homeschools, but prior to that, she taught math. She taught for 7 years and has been home for 2.5 years with the kids. Her faith is a huge foundational piece in keeping her somewhat sane, juggling all the things. I know about that oh so well. And you can follow her on Instagram, which I'll tag in the show notes as Miss Melanin. She offers her followers a look at the highs, the lows, and in-betweens of being a wife, a mom, and all of the roles. And I'm sure so many of us can relate of balancing all the things. So Yvette, thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And like I was telling you before we recorded, my family has been watching you guys on YouTube for a while now. Like before, I think when it was just Theo and Uriah. So it's been really cool to watch the family blossom and see all the amazing things that you guys have been doing. So thank you for being even a positive light like that other people of color can see on Instagram, or not Instagram, on YouTube, because I don't think I saw a lot of that before. I'm seeing more people start to vlog more, so it's been beautiful to kind of watch your family develop and all that jazz. So my first question is, what inspired you to leave your job and become a stay-at-home mom?
um, Honestly, the biggest thing about me quitting my job was when I found out I was having a girl. My husband was a stay-at-home parent for, I think, like 2 years prior to that. And in hindsight, I think it was kind of like the Lord's doing as far as like him being home with our boys. But then when I found out that I was pregnant with a girl, I was like, oof, like I can't let him have her.
Right.
That might sound really crazy, but it's like I really wanted to have like just kind of be a major part of like her upbringing. Like not to say that if I was working I wouldn't, but I don't know, just the way that the boys were connecting with their father, I noticed there was a difference with him being home versus me working. And so I was kind of like, eh. And then to be honest with you, like my teaching credential was expiring because I didn't do some things that I was supposed to do. And so it's kind of easy for me to do. My husband and I often talk about how dumb it was because at the time, I mean, not necessarily dumb, but it wasn't wise because at the time, like Beleaf in Fatherhood wasn't making us very much money at all. Like there was no like promise of we're going to be all right. We're going to survive and make our bills kind of thing when I quit. So, but the Lord has just been faithful in that decision. And so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, so it's basically because my heart. And I will also say that because I was noticing the relationship with my husband and the boys, I was starting to experience some jealousy as far as like how much time he got to spend with the kids. And we were also having the conversation about how him and the boys were getting my leftovers and my job was getting like a majority of me. It was just a lot. I feel like my heart was in 2 different places at that time. And then to find out that I was pregnant with a girl is kind of like, okay, I'm done. I'm coming home.
Now, was it a hard decision? Because I remember watching one of your videos and you talked about loving to teach. Like that was your passion and that, always, that was what you desired to do most. So was it a hard decision? Like, even though you want to be at home with your daughter and your family and everything, but having that passion to teach and then making that choice to be a stay-at-home mom and then leaving this thing that you're passionate about, like, was that hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. I mean, everything I had done, like I even talk about this in I think a recent episode of my podcast. everything that I've done has kind of been like working towards becoming a teacher. And then I finally became a teacher. And like as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to be a math teacher. And then as I got older in like high school, I was like, oh, I want to be like the ASB director at whatever school that I'm teaching at. And so I started teaching, and then I became the ASB director, and then I became the Black Student Union advisor. And I was just having fun and doing things. And, you know, like working in education, there's also the stressors of it as well. But I really enjoyed like the contact that I had got to have with the kids, and just teaching in general, like creating lessons and watching the kids like understand the lessons because of the way that I presented it, or just even the relationships that I had with my students. And so yeah, I miss it. I still miss it. But I do think that I'm where I'm supposed to be for this time, like for this season.
Which is good, because so often a lot of the women, whether they're in my community or interview, well, yeah, mostly in my community, there's so many women who do not like their jobs and they're not passionate about the work that they do, and then they're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I really want? And it's rare that I hear someone that actually loves their job. And I had someone come to one of my events and she's like, I love my job. And I'm like, you know what, let's clap for you, because everyone doesn't feel that way. It seems like
Yeah.
so many people are trying to pursue these more creative things or become an entrepreneur, figure out what their purpose is through that. So to love what you do and then make the decision to leave something that you're passionate about to be at home with your family, like, I commend you for that, because it takes a lot. I homeschool as well. I've been
Mm.
homeschooling for 5 years.
Mm.
And some days I feel like pulling my hair out, like, what the heck am I doing? But then it's been such a beautiful experience to watch how they've been able to develop over time, for sure.
I was just gonna say, it's funny too, because people are like, well, you taught, so isn't it, you know, whatever. I'm like, it is not the same,
Not at all.
especially because I taught middle school and high school. And so I'm having like to teach the foundational stuff that most of my students already came to me knowing. So it's completely different. And I was like a one subject teacher, so it's not the same. And it's your
And
own kids.
yeah, it's different. They don't listen the same. They do not pay attention. And then you
Yeah.
have to juggle all these roles, because not only are you mom, your teacher, your counselor, you're like all these different things.
Yeah.
And my children are 11 and 13. My daughter's 13 and my
Mm.
son is 11. So it's been quite interesting over time. And it's like balancing those roles and making sure, like, they know when I'm in teacher mode and when I'm in mom mode, and
Yeah.
setting those healthy boundaries, because it gets crazy. I don't know how teachers do it, but yeah, I don't.
We get to give them back after 45 minutes, an
Yes,
hour.
versus being with them all day. Like, now you have them all the time. So
Yeah.
tell me, what was the first personal growth resource that you used to begin to shift your mindset and really shifting the way that you think and doing the work that you do now?
Mm. What work do I do now?
Do you feel like it's work?
That's the question. Like, I that's kind of why I started my podcast.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to like plug it,
No, please
but
plug it. No, this is a space to
um
plug.
I've started it because I'm really starting to try to figure out like, what am I doing? Like what am I doing? Because um so when my husband started the YouTube channel, I was not a huge fan of that. I didn't really even know that YouTube was a thing. Like, I didn't know that people share their lives like that on YouTube. And so it wasn't until people started, because my Instagram account used to be private. Um, and that was because I was teaching, and just I was, you know, I was a private person.
Mhm.
But then people would start to send me DMs about like how the channel, like how seeing our family, the way that my husband was sharing our lives, was impacting them. And
Mhm.
like I didn't realize that there was such a need for people to see healthy Black
Yes,
families.
absolutely.
And like, we're definitely not perfect. We always say that we are the proof, not the example,
Mhm.
because we're just living our lives, dealing with the same stuff everybody else is dealing with, but we try to do it in a healthy way.
Yes.
And so when I realized that there was a need for that, I was like, okay, like I can get behind this. Like I can see his vision and the reasons why he's doing it. And so I can align myself with that. Um, and then I stopped teaching, and then I made my profile public. And I started kind of, sharing a little bit more on that platform, just because I don't know why, just because that's who I am. And so I kind of feel like I've fallen into this life of what everybody's calling influence. I hate
Yes.
that term. I don't really, but it is what it is.
It is, yeah.
And so I kind of feel like it kind of, I don't know if this is accurate or if this is irresponsible term to say, but I feel like it just kind of happened to me.
Yeah.
It's not something that I necessarily chose.
Mm-hmm.
And so whereas teaching was something that I
Yes.
chose and I pursued and I was really wanting to do. And so now, as a stay-at-home mom who homeschools, whose life is shared on YouTube, who hosts a podcast with her husband, who's, whatever, it's kind of like, is this like what I'm choosing to do, or is this what I'm kind of falling into? And like, do I actually have control of the platform that I now stand on?
Yeah.
And like, so right now I'm in a place where I feel like I'm trying to navigate through all of that and really like find out like my own motives and my own heart behind what's happening. And even just finding my place in it, because my husband's going to do what he's been called to do. And I absolutely believe that he's been called to do what he's doing with Beleaf and Fatherhood. And so for me, I'm trying to and I feel like we talked about this on our other podcast, How Married Are You? But we're trying to figure out how to work as a team with it, because it's hard for me because I see it as his thing that I'm kind of just like here for, but I don't necessarily see it as our thing. And so when you ask that question, I don't really know, like,
no, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm here. I'm doing whatever. I'm trying to figure it out one day at a time, one moment at a time, one child at a time.
Hello? Yes, yes. And that's exactly the energy that I got when I heard when I was listening to the Kev on Stage podcast, the Love Hour. And that's exactly what I got. And I'm like, I want to have a conversation with her, because I've watched like your husband build it, and then you came along, and it's like now you guys are doing it together. But I'm like, I'm interested in knowing like more of what you desire most, and what do you feel your purpose is, and how you want to show up. So I love that you have taken a step to create your own podcast, because I think that's amazing, and to build your own space and then figure out your way through that. And I think that's how it starts, like just tapping your foot in over here and see like, okay, let me see if I like this, and then creating your own community around that, and sharing things outside of Beleaf and Fatherhood, but exactly what, because it's called Yvette Unplugged, correct?
Yeah. I don't know. What I've been doing is I went and got a therapist to kind of help just with like just sorting through things, sorting through insecurities that I have in this season, sorting through motives and all kinds of things to kind of, come back to center. I don't know if that's like a thing, but yeah.
And I love that. I talk about therapy all the time on here. I'm a huge advocate for it. I even had Dr. Joy from Therapy for Black Girls. We did an episode several months ago, and we talked about unhealthy mother-daughter relationships, because that's something that I have struggles with. I don't want to call it a struggle, but I've done a lot of healing work around mother wounds. And so I'm always advocating for therapy. And I love that there has been this shift, I feel like, where there's
Mm-hmm.
so much talk on social media about it. You hear celebrities talking about it, influencers. I know you don't like that word, but you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
having these conversations about mental wellness, mental health. And I feel like there's a dynamic, like there's a shift that's happening right now, and people are more open to go. So I love that you chose that as a part of your personal growth journey, to kind of figure out like all of the stuff. Cause it's a lot. Like when you're married, you have kids, and then you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out who you are. And I remember with me very early on when I was working full time, I lost myself when I had kids. I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea who I was. And I just kept thinking there has to be more to life than being a wife and a mother. But what the hell is that? Because I don't know right now. And it took me going to therapy and dealing with like my mother wounds for me to figure out, okay, first you need to heal from some stuff first, and
Mm-hmm.
then try to figure out, okay, what is the next step? And so I love that you chose that as your journey because it's so important, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so with having a family, like how do you show up for yourself and do the inner work? And what does that even look like for you?
Um, for me right now, one of the things is therapy. It's one of those things that I've kind of just like, I'm gonna do it. We've made room in the budget for it, and so that's that. Um, I do like I'm lately trying to get the kids to do more of what I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I enjoy going to the beach, and they enjoy going to the beach too. But it just takes a little bit more work.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I realize that, after we get there, like when we get there and we're settled, the sounds of the waves, the vitamin D that I'm getting from the sun, like all of that
Mm-hmm.
is impacting me. Like I literally
Yes.
feel something just kind of wash over me, like a
Mm-hmm.
calmness and a peace that I don't always get in all of my activities. And even like doing things like waking up early in the morning, realizing that if I am going to have the quiet, that I have to wake up before everyone else does in
Yes.
order to get my time to journal or read or even meditate. Like I don't mean to sound like a hippie. I don't even know if
No,
that's the
I'm
word.
with you with all the things because yes,
Uh
I love it.
but it's like my husband and I recently did this like breathing I don't know if you call it breathing therapy or breathing meditation, but we literally had a woman come and like train us on how to breathe. And it was such an amazing experience, where we just kind of felt like more aware, like
Yes.
the most present that we've ever really been.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been trying to recreate that for myself. I haven't been consistent with it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
just waking up in the morning, diffusing an oil, sitting
Yes.
there breathing, just those types of things. Because
Yeah.
right now, that's just all I can really do. I'm not able to get to the gym like I want to, or to do those types of things. But I am taking more time for myself. Like last night, I went to a sewing night because I really want to learn how to sew, and I just wanted to go. And like not allowing myself to feel guilty for taking that kind
Yes.
of time,
Yes.
because I think like we as moms especially can, or just parents really,
Mm-hmm.
we as parents can feel guilty for any time spent away from our children or
Mm-hmm.
away from our spouse or whatever. But I think just kind of getting back to the things that I enjoy. I made a list recently in my journal of the things that I used to do and the things that I
Yes.
still would like to do or enjoy or whatever. And I was like, I want to do more of these things. That's kind of where I think was your question, where am I showing up for myself? I hope I'm still answering
And
it.
you are answering the question. And I think it's those little things that we do because
Yeah.
sometimes people think they have to be so big, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, where can I carve out a few minutes just for myself
Yeah.
to just get a sense of peace, you know? So whether I really enjoy meditation, and like you, I get up now, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and every morning, and I love the quiet time. It's just
Yeah.
something very peaceful when the house is quiet. It's
Hmm.
just me. I can drink my coffee with no interruptions, and it feels so good. And I am envious that you live so close to the beach because I love the beach, and I live in Cleveland,
Yeah.
Ohio, and yeah, that ain't happening here at all. It's very cold here, actually.
We were just there. We live in
Really?
Cincinnati.
Oh
Well, in
yeah, that's not.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
about
where that
4 hours.
is.
It's about 4 hours away from me.
Okay.
But I love that you find the quiet moments, and I think that that's
Mhm.
important. And then going back to what you said about the mom guilt, so many women that I connect with, they carry that, so that prevents them from really figuring out what they want to do for their life because they feel like, oh, my kids need me, or oh, this. It's like the kids will be fine.
Mhm.
Everything will be okay. But if you
Mhm.
live a life of guilt, then later on in life, it's possible you will resent not putting yourself first because you were there for the kids. And I don't believe in balance, but I do feel like you can find a harmony in it
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I
That's
encourage,
good.
yeah, and I encourage women to figure out, what do you want for your life? And what does that look and feel like? So I love that you went to a sewing class. I think that's really sweet. And just getting back to those moments. What's your biggest fear and how do you overcome your fears?
I guess my greatest concern would be letting my family down. Um, for me, Uzziah, for me, I really desire for my husband and I, like, at the end of, like, when we're empty nesters, I desire for us to still look at each other and, like, know who each other are, like,
Yes.
be each other's best friends, like, enjoy each other. And so, as much as I'm concerned about how I'm doing as a mother, I don't want that to kind of like get in the way of my relationship with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously, I don't want my kids to grow up and like hate me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's real.
um,
Yeah.
I don't know if this sounds silly or not, but those are like my concerns. Like, I truly want to be authentic. I don't want people to think so highly of me, from the outside looking in, or even like the relationships I have outside of this internal family unit, and then my family like not. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And my daughter is 13, so she's like, we have 5 more years left
Yeah.
before, she goes out into the real world. And that's the fear that I have. Like, is she getting everything? Like, is
Yeah.
she really paying attention and really listening? And will she be okay?
Yeah.
And some days I'm like, oh man, I only got a short amount of time. I hope that, my husband and I were pouring everything that we need into her. And then I just have to trust and say, you know what,
Yeah.
you're doing the best that you can with what you know. She's going to get what she needs. And just like you, she had to grow, she'll grow and become, the woman she needs to be. But it is scary. But I,
Mhm.
but I give myself grace because I can only do but so much. And I don't want to get into a position where I was in the past where I lost myself. And I put so much emphasis on raising the kids and being a good wife and playing these roles that now the desires of my heart and the things I want to do, I'm no longer doing. And so I'm very passionate about Be Free Project and the Girl Be Free podcast and the work that I do. And they know that, they're important, my family, but this is important as well. And we're going to figure out how to build harmony with all of this so that I don't lose myself anymore, because that was not a good feeling at all.
Yeah.
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 So tell me, what keeps you motivated on days when you feel overwhelmed?
Hmm. What keeps me motivated? I don't know if motivated is the word, but I will say that just like God,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, like his grace is truly sufficient, like that is like my bread and butter right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, Lord, I know that you can get me through this. I know that you have given me the responsibility of like this family to care for, and that you are not going to just leave me here by myself
Yes.
to
Yeah.
tend to them and care for their hearts the way that I'm called to do. So um, that's a huge, I wouldn't say motivating factor, but it's a huge sustaining factor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure what motivates me these days, if I am completely honest.
So are there moments where you do feel overwhelmed and like, what is life? Like, what is happening right now? You
Most
know?
definitely,
hmm
yes.
So now that you are, or you've created your own podcast. Are there other things that you want to do, like solely for you, that is not involved with like Beleaf in fatherhood, like that's solely for Yvette?
I do. I am so desirous of encouraging women
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in all walks of life, in all seasons of life. I think it's because I'm in need of encouragement myself. And
Yes.
I do, like, I'm pretty good about seeking out
Mm-hmm,
encouragement or seeking out life sources, like things that feed my soul, whether it be a book, a podcast, or a mentor
mm-hmm.
relationship. And so for me, I know that and it's like just from the experience that we've had. And so what I'm finding with my experience, just via the interactions that I get to have on social media, is that not a lot of people have that,
Mm-mm.
which is just so surprising to me, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's saddening to me, that they just don't have opportunities to have accountability or interactions with people that are fruitful or
Mm-hmm.
life-giving. um and so my
Yeah.
desire is to really encourage women. And so I have ideas about how that looks for me. And so I don't know, we'll see what comes out down the road, but yeah.
And it's so necessary. I think we do need more spaces where it's positive, like-minded women, with
Yeah.
community and sisterhood, where we can gather and have real conversations and have spaces where we can be around other people who get it, because everybody
Yeah.
don't get it. And so I think that that's really, really important. So what has been the most important lesson that you've learned about yourself over the last year? Or
And
the
most
most important thing you've learned about yourself over the last year?
huh um it's a good question. I will say this is actually a recent revelation, is that I've been chasing the woman that I used to be rather than trying to become the woman that I'm supposed to be.
Mhm. Mm.
And that it's just time for me to let go of that.
Yes. Oh,
Like, I
yes.
often think about who I was and the type of person that I used to be. And I'm just looking at the season that I'm in and the life that I'm living in. I'm like, Yvette, that's just not realistic anymore.
Mhm, mhm.
So you need to like kind of figure out who you're becoming,
Yes.
rather than trying to hold on to an old version of yourself.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I think that that's so important. And I feel like I just wrote about this recently, about this very similar revelation, how I had to let go of the old version of Siobhan and what that looked like. Because when you get married and when you have children and just live life, you do become this different person. And sometimes we're so focused on like getting back to our old self, pre-kids, pre-marriage, that you have to accept like, nope, I'm not her anymore. I'm a whole different person. And then discover, well, what does she look like? Like, what does she feel like? What does she desire? What does she want? And that is how you get to your level of clarity about the new version of you. And I think when you release the old, like trying to get back to the old version of yourself, there's a level of freedom that you have. And then it's an excitement like, okay, well, who am
Yeah.
I and who do I want to become? And what does this new person look like and feel like? And being
Yeah.
able to explore that, I think that that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing that you're most proud of?
I just am proud of like this life that my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I have built for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally not like perfect, and we still have so much growing to do, but it's so like it's just something about being in the center of God's will
Mm-hmm.
that it gives you like a peace even in the midst of feeling unwound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like really trying, like, so for me right now I'm just super confused about um who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm pursuing. But at the same time, I just feel like where we are is where we're supposed to be and is where God has placed us. And just to know that like I am walking this out with a man who is um just such a good leader and husband is just a blessing. I
Mm.
don't know. So I'm really proud of this family, just how we are.
I love it. I love it. And something that you said earlier, like around like being able to create, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly the way that you said it, but
Yeah.
being this visual on YouTube that we don't get to see every day. And now we get to see a family, a positive family, like raising kids, and also to be brown skinned. I think that that makes a huge difference. And not, but like to see someone that looks like everyday people, and it's like, oh, but they're doing so many amazing things, and it's like you just want to cheer for them and you just want to root for you guys, you know what I mean? Because it's something that we don't see every day. I think that there is a shift happening, but that is what like drew me to you, or you to me, to your family or what have you, because you look like everyday people vlogging about your life, and I'm like, oh, I can get down with that. So I think that that's very beautiful what you guys have cultivated, and then just to watch how it has blossom and how you guys are thriving as a result of creating a space of sharing your family with the world, which is amazing. To only a few more, and then we'll be all set. What's one thing you would tell to your 20-year-old self?
Really focused. Actually, no, to my 20-year-old self, I would tell her to lighten up a little bit.
Mm,
Like just enjoy life a little bit more. It's okay to be driven, but lighten up a little bit and make sure you're making room for fun and
yes.
adventure and really kind of getting to know yourself. Like, let go of the expectations that people have of you and just be.
Hmm. I love that. And so, since you brought up fun, can you share a fun fact about yourself?
Hmm. A fun fact about myself. Hmm. I've gone skydiving before.
I watched the video. I watched the video on YouTube. I
Oh,
thought that was so
I
cool.
forgot that's out there. Yeah. I mean, and I would love to do more things like that. That's just me. Like, my husband, not so much. But yeah, like jumping out of planes, parasailing, like just all kinds of fun adventure. Like me and Will Smith would be really good
Oh
friends.
my gosh. All the things that he does is like, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. But he is very adventurous. So I love that.
Yes. Yes. If you haven't listened to his interview on the Breakfast Club,
I
have you?
did. I listened to it
He
last
was
week.
dropping gems on there.
Wasn't he? And I'm like, I need to go back and rewatch it again. Like, because he
Yeah.
definitely was. He totally was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
So, what book would you highly recommend the Girl Be Free listeners read? And it can be fiction, nonfiction, hands down, your favorite book. Like, yes, you need to read this.
Redeeming Love
What's the
by
name
Fran.
of it?
Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers.
I never heard of that.
Francine Rivers is just a good author.
Mhm. Mhm.
She like so I've read or whatever, but the reason I read Redeeming Love, I was like, wow. And it basically is just a story about how we are called to be loved as women. And she takes like Bible stories and she kind of just puts like her twist on them. It's not boring, trust me. It's really
Mhm.
good. Start with
Mm.
Redeeming Love and then just go find a lot of her other books.
I will list that in the show notes. All right, so two more questions for you. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out with changing their life or pursuing their purpose or figuring out what they want? Like, what's a tip or advice that you would give?
I would say just to journal everything.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things, and I like as I've gotten more busy with motherhood and whatnot, I don't journal as much as I used to, but I do love to kind of go back and read what I had written. And it just is a great way to measure growth. It's a great way to, just kind of see the things that you were talking about, some of the dreams that you had, the promises that you made yourself. On my podcast, at the end of every episode, I try to leave my listeners with a quote for the week.
Mhm.
And one of the quotes came from Abby, a girl that I follow on Instagram. And she said, I don't remember it exactly, but she said something about setting goals and crushing them is self love. And I just think it's really important for us to like write things down and, kind of hold ourselves accountable to those things. Like, what were the things that you dreamed about or hoped for, prayed for, and, how are those coming to pass?
Yeah, I love it. I am a huge advocate for journaling. I've been journaling since I was 14 years old. My eighth grade teacher, Miss Gilmore, gave me my first journal, and I have all of my journals. And I love like going back to read like some of the things from years
Yeah.
ago, and some of the things I'm like, what were you on? What were you thinking? Like what was going on in your life? And then
Yeah.
just to see how much I've grown over the years and how much work I still need to do to become this
Yeah.
better version of myself is
Hmm.
very beautiful to see, like on paper. And most recently, what I've been doing, I recently went to this conference called Rise in Fort Myers, Florida, about a couple of weeks ago, and we all got these journals. They call Start Today. And so every day, you write down 5 things that you're grateful for, and then you write down 10 dreams that you made happen. And basically you're writing down your dreams that your biggest wildest dreams, you're writing them down in the present tense as if they've already happened. And so you're telling your subconscious mind this, right? And so you begin to move and act like, oh yeah, I've done this or whatever. And now you get to do the work, and you get to go back and reflect and like, oh yes, I wrote this into existence, or I manifested this. So yes, journaling is so powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So my last question is, what does being free mean to you?
For me, I think in this, like where I'm at right now in life, I think for me being free is letting go of care for what other people think of me.
Mhm.
I think there is a place for that, but in my personal life, I think that I have kind of let it dictate some of the things that I do or don't do.
Mhm.
And I just kind of want to be more true to the desires of my heart and not the expectations that I feel people have of me. Some
Mhm.
of those expectations named and some of them assumed, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think for me, freedom is that. It's just kind of being me
Yes.
unapologetically.
Yes, I love that. All right. Well, tell the guests where they can find you on social media.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram at Mrs. Melanin, MRSMELANIN. I also have a podcast with my husband called How Married Are You? And we also have an Instagram account called How Married Are You? And I have recently started my own podcast, Yvette Unplugged. And yeah, find me where you want to.
And of course on YouTube, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And YouTube, Belief in Fatherhood.
Yes, so I will make sure that I link to all the things in the show notes. And Yvette, thank you so much for taking time out to be on the podcast. I am so excited about this, and I know the listeners are going to get so many gems that you shared today. So thank you so much for being on the
Thank,
show.
thank you.
And until next time, girl, be free. Hey, BFFs, I want to personally invite you to BeFreeInnerCircle.com, your community for real sisterhood where women are showing up and doing the work. Whether you're still trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, or you need accountability to keep pushing forward to reach your goals, the Be Free Inner Circle is the community for you. You can expect curated content that will support you on becoming the best version of yourself, live office hours and Q&A sessions where we chat about things like overcoming self-doubt, building your confidence, practicing self-care without guilt, and so much more. Virtual live events from book clubs and workshops with guest speakers, and a supportive and active community of women that will encourage you, hold you accountable, cheer you on, and give you honest feedback and advice. It's the perfect place to be for women who are ready to show up, flourish, and be free. Join today at BeFreeInnerCircle.com.